Hi dear, I'm Shenji. This is an introduction episode about a poem I wrote on the topic of causal diagram learning. For this brief series, I'm going to show you some intuition about the important roles of causal diagram. This is partially taken from the perspective of what we call the revolutionary causation. And also, I want to show you how to learn such a causal diagram when it comes to the inferred causation. But firstly, my great shout out goes to the DMIR lab, the lab of data mapping and information retrieval, where I've experienced my 2 years journey about causal discovery study. So I want to say a great thanks to the director, Professor Tsai. Particularly, I want to thank to my mentor, Cheng Wei. Truth be told, you know, I wouldn't have been able to stay to finish this work, but for remembering the encouragement from her. So thank you very much. For causal discovery or causal diagram learning, instead of calling some experts to join a causal diagram, we wish to kind of automatically discover the diagram just from the data. And measuring computer science, I spent way too much time in something like programming the algorithms or finding the experimental results and so forth. But when I come to graduation and I got to start my work, one day I asked myself, did you really know the very motivations and big pictures about causation? And I was like, uh, quite ashamed. I gotta admit that I actually know little about the broad idea. So that kind of thinking pushed me to rethink the landscape about causation. And I have to say, it is my reading experience about four of these popular causal books that really gives me the inspiration to do this work. So especially we have the book of why. Um, Actually, it was the book of why that opened the door for me to causation 2 years ago. So in the following, you will from time to time see I I will try to share with you my epiphany that when I reread the book of why. We also have the book causality. I try to extract some relevant idea about causal diagram learning. Especially, I try to sort of connect to the deeper concepts about the structure causal model. And the book, Causation, Prediction, and Search, I attempt a sense of philosophy. This is quite elegant about how to use some constraints to learn the causal diagram from data. And finally, we have the book Elements of Causal Inference. This book told me how to take it from a machine learning perspective about learning the causal diagram. So you see, there's a lot to talk about the causal diagram. So actually, I want to interpret this from two aspects: the upstreams and the downstream. So for the upstream here, it's sort of like we're going down the ladders of causation. Going through some pivotal concepts such as counterfactuals and interventions. I try to have your attention to see um, what is the important roles that causal diagram play amidst this application, or what makes it too appealing for both philosophers and scientists. Um, they're quite dreaming at discover the causal diagram from the data. So if that dream become the truth, then what is the dominating principle? There's no free lunch. What is the additional assumption or additional restriction? What is the challenges here? Okay, that is the motivation. And if I got to pick only one topic about causal diagram learning from my experience, that kind of impressed me the most, I couldn't do this but show you the following example. Let's say if I ask you to think of your lifetime event as a topological structure. For example, if you see someone's business success and I ask you what is the causes of the business success, and this is a bit subjective, but personally, I think it largely depends on one's social wealth, political power, and maybe the person's big influencer. And let's go deeper. Let's try to think what is the thing that result in the wealth, and making a person to be a political figure. Then we might tend to link this into one's characteristic. For example, whether the person is quite confident, resilient, quite articulate. But if we continue to go higher, what is something shaping one's characteristic? Then I believe this time most of the people would say it might about someone's circumstance. Okay, so finally, what is the cause of one's circumstance? The answer, from my point of view, I think is about one's destiny, because different people has different circumstance, right? and and now we have basically the causal diagram here, and the important point is that you see at the beginning, from the point, the results in the bottom of the diagram, and that asks you to looking for the cause. We tracing back, and we nearly to reach the outer or the top of the diagrams, and we end up with finding something quite random, quite independent, and maybe a bit out of control. I mean, everyone has his own destiny, right? Maybe only God knowing what's going to happen in the future. Okay, so given such a causal diagram, if I want to make it more clear, if I want to sort of connect it to the causal model, then this time let's stand at the top point, at this top factor, and we start looking up down the causal diagram. And this time, additionally, I will try to add some noise to include some uncertainties that happen in our lifetime events. And from these pictures, we sort of got the appearance of our lifetime journey, right? I mean, most of the times we seems to we are following the destinies in our life, and maybe sometimes there's some noise. I mean, there are some fluctuations happening in our life, but if you take it from the big picture, if you take it from the overview, the the destiny, the big direction seems to be determined, right? And again, this might be a bit subjective, but the point I want to demonstrate it here is that if you kind of accept the idea less or more, then I can tell you, even if you going further, um, going some rigorous place, for example, you're doing some formalizations, you're doing some mathematics, then this intuition of the causal model still exists. And and that is, from my point of view, I think that is the most interesting point of the causal diagram, because it tends to reflect a strong connection between the scientific world of causation and the real or our view of the world, right? Okay, if you are interested in what I'm talking about, then I've created four of the episode in the following. For two of the episode, I will focusing on the revolutionary causation, where I will talk about some important concepts on the counterfactual thinkings, how to use the intervention to estimate the causal effects, and we will talking about this by seeing their application in some major issues such as climate change, coronaviruses, and then for the rest of the two episodes, we will talking about how to infer the correlations. That is how to exactly learn the causal diagram from data. What is the general principle? What is the additional restriction? And last but definitely not least, let me show you some resources. If you are interested in the scientific research of causal diagram learning, then you can head to the DMIR Lab GitHub page. And I would like to say the DMIR Lab was the earliest, almost the earliest, the lab in China study causation, and they're still dedicated to making great contributions in the fields of causal discovery. And if you want something more practical, by doing some coding, you can install the Causal Learn package. This is the software that developed by the DMI Lab collaborating with CMU. And finally, if you are interested in the content that I talk in these videos, you can go to my personal web and and see more details in the paper. In fact, all of the contents of the videos are based on the paper. Okay, you can head down to the comments where I will put all the links there. If you find this video is a bit okay, please give me a thumbs up. Appreciate it for your support.